Good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday. We have an amazing show for everybody today. Bro Show. Good to see you, Ryan.
Good to see you, Saagar.
All right. Dad Show, Bro Show. That's what people live for the pound. I got to get all my
Gotta get the t-shirts.
Yeah, that's right. We got to get the t-shirts. All right. So we've got a great show for everybody today. Let's do this. The hardest part of the job. What do we have? We're going to start with the shutdown. We are officially some 48 hours? Okay.
Something like that.
36 hours. All right. We'll go with that. Time is a blur when you have
nobody knows. The government
when you have an infant at home. So, yeah, exactly. We have a shutdown that's going on. We're going to break down all the politics for everybody, some of the developments from the Trump administration. We're going to get then to some of the Democratic response and some of the internecine warfare about whether the shutdown was a good idea or not. We have a lot of economic news, actually, to break down. In fact, because of the government shutdown, some of the key government indicators maybe not be released by the Trump administration, as well as some news on the BLS nominee. That's one of those key data points that the Trump administration had been at war with. They nominated this new guy, and now all of a sudden his nomination has been pulled. We are going to talk about Sora. Sora is this new, Ryan, open AI video generator, deeply dystopian AI
Today's show is produced by that.
Yeah. I wish it was produced by Sora. It'd save us a lot of money, wouldn't it? Although the whole point may be, in terms of what we're giving up, what are we getting for all of this? And in particular, the amount of money and power that these data centers, which power this AI, are consuming is astronomical. I knew it was high, and even I did not know what the actual numbers were, including in the state where I live. We're also going to talk about Qatar, and it's funny, Ryan, we're very often accused of being Qatari assets for being critical of Israel, so I do hope that this block will set the record straight. Donald Trump, out of thin air, created Article 5 style protections for Qatar. Why exactly? Because Israel attacked them. Seems better to just constrain Israel than just unilaterally grant Article 5 protection. And also Steve Witkoff. You and I have been joking the last 24 hours. I always kind of thought it was a Zionist talking point that that Steve Witkoff is bought by Qatar. A little bit of a point, all right? It's like, listen, if he actually had followed through with a ceasefire and a deal in Gaza, maybe we could, it's like, what's a few billion here between friends? But if we're going to be where we are now and you're going to be straight, in some sketchy dealings, it needs to be called out. It needs to be called out.
You can imagine being Qatar, you're like, we gave this guy billions.
Yeah.
We're still getting bombed.
We're still getting bombed. It's ridiculous.
Can't even buy good assets anymore.
Yeah. That's so good. And then finally, we're going to talk about TikTok, some of the new pro-Israel censorship rolling out across TikTok. And Ryan, you have a TikTok creator who you are friends with who has been massively suppressed in the algorithm. Tell us about him.
Yeah, he goes by Your Favorite Guy. He's kind of tutored us over at Dropsite a little bit about how to do TikTok because this is a foreign, well, not only a foreign company, but a kind of
used to be
foreign in the colloquial sense to old people like me and Saagar. And so he, since this new rollout, I think it was September 13th or 23rd, we'll get into it with him, these new community guidelines are presaging the extraordinary amount of censorship that we're going to see on TikTok going forward. So like his politics, don't like his politics, whatever, he's going to talk to us about what it's doing for his ability to express those politics on this platform.
Yeah, I don't care what his politics are.
Right.
So for me, it's just more interesting about the censorship guidelines and the things that have come into place. And some place previously, there was a lot of discussion around Israel, and in particular, really had an effect on youth culture, and it's been hit like that overnight. So we're very curious to see how that goes. Thank you to everybody who's been supporting the show, breakingpoints.com, if you are able to. If you're not, no worries to become a full subscriber. Just please go ahead and hit the subscribe button on YouTube. If you're listening to this on a podcast, send an episode to a friend and or rate us 5 stars. It really helps other people find the show. So let's go ahead and start with the shutdown. As you said, the most consequential news is that the White House is telegraphing rifts or reduction in forces of U.S. government employees, given their unilateral authority on how to run the government when there is a shutdown. Here is the press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, speaking yesterday at a press conference. Let's take a listen.
I'm just trying to clarify the timing of these potential layoffs to federal workers. You said imminent. The vice president seemed to say in a couple of days. It looks like Russ Vought maybe said in 2 days. When would these layoffs begin?
2 days, imminent, very soon. You will expect more announcements right now.
Is it just not clear, or are you waiting?
No, it's not unclear. All of those things are very synonymous with one another. These rifts are unfortunately going to happen very soon.
Let's fix our policy after the shutdown. Where have I heard that before? Right now, where have I heard of that
From the
before?
other side, yeah.
There's something so beautiful about everybody just switching sides on the shutdown. You know, Republicans shut down the government multiple times. People just tore their hair out over the norms. Now the Democrats are shutting the shutdown. I love it personally. You know, I like to see people be responsive to their partisan bases. But Ryan, tell us a little bit your thoughts here in terms of the messaging wars on the shutdown before we get to Schumer.
I mean, I think there might be something to that regarding Schumer. I don't know if it's just AOC threatening to challenge him in a primary. It's just generally this sense among Democrats that he is failing at his job and he's not being tough enough. I've heard of him going into spaces here in D.C. where it's all establishment elite type figures. And just getting absolute like
hammered,
cold shoulder.
Yeah,
just like, oh,
right,
this guy.
Interesting.
Like so, even like the brass is like this. There's a sense that going from Harry Reid and Nancy Pelosi, some real ballers, to Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries is a massive step down in like talent and strength.
I mean, that's objectively true.
It's objectively true.
Yeah,
and but even the establishment like understands that.
Yeah, but I'll save some of my commentary. But isn't that kind of their fault? Like they're the ones who wanted people who were more agreeable and more poll tested.
Yeah, I mean, they voted for
They voted for these guys. They supported their candidacy.
And Reid, Reid helped usher in Schumer, and Pelosi helped usher in Jeffries.
Yeah,
it's really AOC's fault for knocking Joe Crowley out. he'd be House Speaker right now.
It's actually deeply funny to even consider all of that. All right, let's get to Chuck Schumer, his own response, some of the framing coming out of the House leadership, or the House and Senate leadership from the Democrats. Let's take a listen.
What happens on Friday night when the family sits around the kitchen table and says, how are we going to pay the bills, when they see that their insurance could be $1,000 more a month? Health insurance, vital to the parents, the children of the family. What are they going to do? The average American can't afford $1,000 a month or even $400 a month. The average American is going to say, what the heck happened here? And we Democrats are going to be there every day, every hour. Senate, House, groups that care about health care, hospital groups, health care groups, research groups, and letting them know this didn't have to happen. It happened because our Republican colleagues wanted to give tax breaks to billionaires and cut their health care.
So, Ryan, they are going all in on the healthcare message. We've talked about it here quite a bit with Crystal. It does, obviously, it's the most poll tested. I mean, it's a legitimate issue. Not even just legitimate, it's a deeply important issue. Obamacare subscriber here.
For you, too. You're like, come on, Dems.
I'm just, I'm like, you know, maybe it's like a sly thing where I'm like, it wouldn't be so bad. You know, if they got what they wanted, it'd be nice, especially, you know, with the new addition here to our family plan. The question around it is this going to satisfy the Democratic base for some of the stuff that they want to stop Trump on? It's not really about healthcare, let's be honest. They just want to, you know, kind of throw a wrench in the government. And then the secondary question is, can the Democrats withstand what the Trump administration is going to do? So, for example, let's put A4 up here on the screen. I'll get your reaction. Russ Vought, who is the OMB director, says, quote, roughly $18 billion in New York City infrastructure projects have now been put on hold to ensure funding is not flowing based on, quote, unconstitutional DEI principles. More info to come from the U.S. DOT. He specifically there was talking about New York City, what is it, the 2nd Avenue subway line, as well as another infrastructure project that is currently being funded by the government. And so you see the direct targeting here of New York City, and I can combine it here with A5, just so you can tell us a little bit about some of the states. Nearly $8 billion in green, quote, green new scam funding to fuel the left's climate agenda is being canceled. Projects are in the following state: California, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Hawaii, Illinois, Maryland, Massachusetts, Minnesota, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, Oregon, Vermont, Washington. For the life of me, Ryan.
Pop quiz. Pop quiz class. What connects all of those states?
You know, for the life of me, I cannot figure out what is in common with all these states.
They have capitals that have 3 syllables.
There you go. Right. That's got to be it, right? Not that they all voted for Democrats in the
that
national.
too.
Oh,
yes, that too.
There it is. So yeah, I mean, what do you think about the way that these establishment Dems are going to handle this, right? Because they already lost a couple in terms of the vote. So how many do they actually need? They need like 7 more.
But they need 3 more. Something.
Sorry, 3 more.
Yeah.
They need 3 more to come along with them. You've got the government, New York City, obviously being targeted because of Chuck Schumer, the rest of the Democratic states to put a lot of pressure there on the senators. Of course, reduction in force. You got Democrats who have a lot of veterans for the government, like itself, for the bureaucrats. Are they really going to sit by and allow, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands to be fired and eventually cave? I don't know. I mean, that almost seems worse to me from a Democratic base perspective. So what's your read currently on the situation?
Right, and I think, and we can put up a 6 as well, because this goes to it. There's reporting from Capitol Hill saying that a gang of moderates in both parties, they're starting the age-old gang process in search of a deal centered on ACA subsidies. What this means basically is that you'll get enough Democrats sitting down in a room with enough Republicans that if they all agree, they can, no matter what the leaderships want to do, they can break the logjam. And so I think this is where it heads, because from Democrats' perspective, the base and Schumer, they just want to show that they put up a fight. And now they've kind of showed that. And if they can get something, then they can move on and say, we're going to fight on this another day. Schumer's strategy here is very clear. And I get it. Like in January, you, and I'm talking about all of you, and particularly Saagar, are gonna, get hit with if you're on the exchanges, which is about 20 million people.
Yes.
The subsidies go away, and boom, all of a sudden, your affordable payment for the Affordable Care Act is now deeply unaffordable.
Not that affordable, by the way, but yeah.
But it's more affordable
than
when they strip the subsidies away. And Democrats want the public to know why that happened, and they're hoping that this big storm that they're creating now will then remind people, okay. So they're hoping, I think, that they make enough of a storm, and then once you've done that, you've kind of scratched all the different itches. You still have this fundamental philosophical question that actually, speaking of AOC, goes back to her debate with Joe Crowley, where she had gotten Crowley to say that ICE is fascist, and then she'd be like, but then why would you vote to fund a fascist agency? Which it's like that's why a lot of politicians don't want to call what's happening in Gaza genocide. Because once you call it a genocide,
you can't fund it. Right.
On what planet can you fund a genocide? And what planet can you fund a fascist agency? So Democrats have said this is an authoritarian crackdown. This is the end of the American Republic. Oh, and here we're going to fund it. That is just
that's what they did earlier, right? So
I get it. They get killed, so they have to do something,
right? But then doesn't it seem as if shutting it down for messaging purposes only to cave in a couple of days, isn't that worse, right? And how would Schumer and Jeffries and them handle it? So again, to explain just a little bit to people, the House bill is already passed, right? You only need a couple of senators to buckle and to just vote for the, quote, clean CR or whatever to go through, and then you're done. And so the majority of the Democrats could stand against the bill, but if a couple of the, quote, moderates do, well, you still lost, and that's going to affect the national party at a major level.
And maybe they get, and it'll be interesting to see how they work the details out, because, you can make a deal around the subsidies, pass a clean CR, and then try to implement it in the next thing. But then you're at the whim of Republicans again.
Right.
So you have to get it passed, but then Johnson and Republicans in the House would have to then agree to it, which goes back to a question I've been wondering from the GOP perspective. Why fight this, actually? Well, they don't care about deficits anymore. But why not just say, okay, fine, you know what? These subsidies going away would suck for us in an election year anyway. Fine, keep them.
Yeah, because I wonder how much of it is about healthcare and how much is about the executive just basically doing backflips on, hey, we've been wanting this. They're like, we want the OMB director, for example. I can read this this morning. There's a new Trump truth quote. I have a meeting today with Russ Vought of Project 2025 fame to determine which, by the way, hilarious because now Project 2025.
Because he said, I've never heard of it.
Nothing to do with Project 2025. I will fire anybody who has anything to do with Project 2025. Anyway, whatever.
Of Project 2025
to determine which which of the many Democratic agencies, most of which are a political scam, he recommends to be cut and whether or not those cuts will be temporary or permanent. I can't believe the radical left Democrats gave me this unprecedented opportunity. They are not stupid people, so maybe this is their way of wanting to quietly and quickly make America great again. I mean, he's kind of correct, right? In terms of they knew that this was the likely outcome. The Democratic response I have seen is if you look at Russ Vogt's tweet on New York City, it has nothing to do with the shutdown. He said it was about DEI. So the point that I've seen the base and them make is, guys, they're going to cut funding whether there's a shutdown or not. So who cares? Why should we buckle to this? I just personally think that they can't sit by for that long and let the government just cut whatever agency or whatever people put entirely on furlough. In particular, if you see a straight up targeting of all Democratic states and of their funding, how long are they really going to go with it before some mealy-mouthed, new Nevada Democrat is going to be coming and voting for the CR? I could see that happening very quickly. Personally.
It could for sure. But yes, like Democrats also do have that point that Russ Vogt's going to do this stuff anyway.
Right.
So the threats and he's probably going to do more with it shut down. But Democrats when you lose power, you're left with like bad and even worse.
Elections have consequences, as Obama famously said. Yeah. I do wonder here with the shutdown again, how the Democratic base is feeling this, because something that is mystifying to me is, if you recall in 2013, the shutdown was the biggest story in the world. It was everywhere. Especially, I was going to college here in Washington, but the Obama administration made sure that you knew about the shutdown. Like they had signs. I remember, even in the place where I would walk sometimes, which was near my university, was technically national park grounds, and there was a big sign over it. It was like, this place is shut down. You could still walk there, but it's like, it's shut down because of the shutdown. The Trump administration is doing some of that, but the Republicans also, their full media, Fox News, the radio stations, everybody was mobilized. This seems weirdly like a low-key shutdown almost. Like, do the Democratic base feel the responsiveness here? Because I haven't seen that quite yet in terms of their media, in terms of maybe like their feeling as if they're being responded to. And that feels relevant as we transition to the next part about how the Democrats themselves are kind of handling the shutdown.
Yeah, and while you were in college there, I was actually on pool duty with Obama.
Oh, wow.
When that was going on. And I remember sprinting up the Lincoln Memorial steps.
Yes.
Because he went up and did an event at the very top of the Lincoln Memorial steps. I beat all the rest of the pool reporters because they're totally out of shape.
That's a good feeling.
Yes. And Obama was in much better shape than all of us combined. And yeah, it was a huge deal. I think that there's a boredom with 20 years at this point almost of Washington doing shutdown drama, fiscal cliff drama, the debt ceiling drama, super committees, and it all adds up to just blips for people. Like there's some for hundreds of thousands of individuals who work for the federal government, certainly, it's impactful. But for the 300+ million people in the country, they're like, we're just kind of bored of all of this. But that is a recipe oftentimes for catastrophe, because eventually the wolf does show up.
Yeah.
Even if you have been crying wolf a while. So people kind of learn the wrong lesson from that fairy tale sometimes. It's like, or whatever you would call it. It's like, yes, you shouldn't cry wolf, but also there are wolves.
Yeah, you're right. All right,
so maybe this one's it, and we just don't know.
Let's get to the next part around the message,
wolf.
Because what I want is, this is again kind of to the messaging battle, is, again, look, I'm biased, so it's my own personal, but I mean, you have to be honest, like the way that the Trump administration has been handling this, even if you hate the way they're doing it, it's effective. Like every government agency, if you go to their website, has a thing at the top. It's like the Democrats, the radical left Democrats shut down the government.
They figured out they don't have to follow the law on
who cares,
on politically
What are they going to
weaponizing
do?
the
Oh, you're going to
government.
sue them over the Hatch Act violation or whatever? Good luck, right? You know, that seems like quaint in our current
does.
politics. And from the Democratic side, like we have Hakeem Jeffries, we have Chuck Schumer. It just, to me, is lame. Like the way that it just doesn't seem legitimate. It doesn't seem as if they really believe in the fight. And especially when you have multiple Democratic senators who already kind of voted for it, you're like, okay, what are we really doing here? And so our team helped me decipher this new TikTok Democratic meme that was posted by the Democratic Party of a kitty explaining the government shutdown. Let's take a listen.
Republican and Democrat kitties cannot agree on what should be funded. Democrat kitties want you to have health care. Republican kitties do not. Republican kitties control the Senate, House, and the White House, so they're using that to cut your health care and give money to billionaires. Democrat kitty tries to negotiate, but Republican kitty keeps running away. He has a vacation to get to. Uh-oh, suddenly the money you pay for your health insurance has tripled. Thanks, Republicans.
Our Gen Z staffer tells us that usually this meme is about kitty explains boyfriend to girlfriend, not technically about the government shutdown. I don't know about this. I mean, look, maybe the point about unified government is always one that does hit with the American people, right? Is they're like, hey, you have the House, the Senate, and the White House, and so you guys still can't fund the government. It's like, well, you know, there is the filibuster, which, you know, the Republicans still, I guess, do believe in. Both kind of bases probably would be fine with nuking the filibuster. So technically, you know, if they really wanted to, they could nuke the filibuster and then they could just fund the government, but that doesn't seem like something that they want to do. But more broadly, Ryan, this kind of gets to the shutdown wars and some more establishment voices in DC voicing against Democratic embrace of the shutdown. Let's put A8, please, up on the screen. I'm very curious for what you think. So Washington Post, editorial board, you know, one of the classic people used to care, but nobody really cares anymore. Still has some voice in Washington. Quote, the Democrats marched into a shutdown trap. They say progressive Democrats, like the Freedom Caucus, are urging their party in a dangerous direction. And so what they say is that the Democratic Party shut off any potential escape valve to avoid a shutdown. In doing so, progressives embraced the same disastrous mentality that led the House Freedom Caucus to believe it could come out ahead in previous government funding shutdowns. They wrongly assumed their political leverage would withstand the ensuing fallout. Left-wing Democrats, like the Freedom Caucus before them, enter the shutdown in a position of weakness. They point to the Trump administration saying that they're going to do whatever they want. And they also point specifically to how, in their telling, the previous Republican shutdowns, quote, failed to achieve Republican goals every time. Do you think that that's true or not? Because I don't think it's necessarily true. That the Freedom Caucus Act
didn't achieve their
goals. I think they vastly achieved their goals.
In a significant way, they achieved their goals, particularly when it comes to leveling off government spending starting in like after 2011, which actually slowed the recovery.
We had sequestration.
It got sequestration out of it. And I think without that, they don't win the Senate in 2014. And if you don't win the Senate in 2014, Merrick Garland is a Supreme Court justice.
Yeah.
And our entire world looks different than it does now. I think without what the Freedom Caucus accomplished in slowing the economy and slowing the recovery in those 4 or 5 years, you don't even get Trump winning in 2016 because it was such a close election and people were frustrated at the very slow recovery from the financial crisis. So, they actually got they didn't get everything they wanted by any remote stretch of the imagination. And we now have $30+ trillion in debt. So like from their perspective, they were like, well, we totally failed. But it's marginally, they actually did bring about 4 or 5 years of austerity with a Democrat in the White House, which was to their political benefit.
And I would flip it too and say, did they really care about austerity? Obviously not. What they cared about was the exercise of power in and of itself, right? And what they showed is that some 15 to 30 people actually could wield immense amounts of power relative to everybody else in the government. It's almost like a tyranny of the minority part, where as long as you're together and you're in lockstep, that the rest of the group is going to have to adapt itself to whoever you are. This is part of the problem, though, with the Democratic Party. Again, I think, in my opinion, is that by kind of lamely talking about ACA, and again, I don't even think really authentically, because the truth is that the Democrats just wanted a shutdown, period. Like if you listen and they cite comments from Greg Cesar and others, they're like, it's not about ACA, okay? They were like, we hate Trump,
Right.
They're like, well, we
We're not
think
gonna
what Trump
fund
is doing
this
is so
fascist.
horrible.
Yeah.
We're not going to fund it, period. Right? We're going to make his life hell. It's a question mark of whether they are making their life hell, but it's the only thing that we have, so we might as well do it. And I think that that has a lot of currency, but without any uptick and constant browbeat of a lot of the people who are the Democratic Party faithful accepting that message, then you do kind of find yourself in a weird position where if you look at Chuck Schumer, he's not taking what I originally said. The smartest thing Mitch McConnell ever said in 2009 was, our job is just make sure the president doesn't get reelected, period. All right? I was like, they were like, oh, are you going to work with Obama? He's like, no. He's like, we have one job. Make sure that he does not succeed, period. And everyone was shocked by that. It was actually the most honest thing a politician has said in years, because he's like, yo, you think we're going to negotiate in good faith? Absolutely not. He's like, we're here to make shit miserable for Obama. And he succeeded 100%. So the point is, though, on the Democratic side, you don't see that level of fight and of energy. And look, McConnell became hated many years later, but he was a hero, right? He was a absolute Tea Party Freedom Caucus hero there for some time. Obviously, there were a lot of fights in particular, but Paul Ryan became the House Speaker as a result of this, and he was seen as a credible person who could replace Boehner. So, like, to me, that's where, no, the shutdown politics actually did work in terms of, look at the Republican stars of that period. Every single one of them remains prominent to today. Ted Cruz, you could say a lot. Yes, he failed to achieve the Republican nomination. He came in second, okay?
Yeah.
He got second in the Republican primary in 2016. That's nothing to sneeze at. Like, he had real popular currency. If you're a Democrat and you want to be taken seriously, you do need to mount like a credible fight against Trump if that's where your party base is. So that's where I feel like the Washington Post is almost being too cute by saying their actual political ends. Their political ends are not about the ACA. That's probably not going to happen. I mean, maybe it will. It'd be great for me if it did, and for everybody else. But I don't think that that's the ultimate point of the shutdown itself. And that's why I've seen some more establishment liberals and others being like, guys, this is a bad idea. Trump is just going to use it as an excuse. And it's like, yeah, but you're doing that anyway, right? So why not? It just seems like a Hail Mary approach to government. But I know you have some more mixed thoughts on a shutdown.
No, I think that's about right. The one final point I would have on this is that I was talking to somebody last night who spends a lot of time in China, and they were telling me about all the different projects that they've got going on, trying to figure out ways to like repurpose like waste removal and all confronting all of the difficult challenges of contemporary life and trying to like move forward in ways that can like make everybody's life better. And it just reminded me of like just how existentially kind of dead and boring our own politics is.
Hey, listen, bro.
Because what are we doing here?
Yeah.
like are we going to keep the government open or not? Like, and why? Is there any effort by any party to actually grapple with the problems that are confronting contemporary society? I don't see it.
No, I don't see it either. Yeah, I mean, we're going to talk.
What are we doing? Like, what
we're going to talk in our story block about these data centers and rising electricity prices. Everyone's like, "Oh, just got to take it." Okay.
It just feels like a hollow death spiral. And here we are, just like riding it on the way down. It's like
inspiring stuff.
Is it good that they do it? Is it bad they do it? I don't know. We're all just circling the drain.
Listen, I'm with you. Right, Chinese century it is. All right, I might as well embrace it. Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.